7:03, and the meeting is now called to order. I'd like to welcome all our visitors. If you would please unmute yourselves and turn your camera on and just introduce yourself to our committee, that will be wonderful. And we would appreciate that.
I'll begin. Good evening, Ms. Blinky. This is Cheryl Watson-Harris, the Superintendent of DeKalb County School District. Thank you so much for your leadership and your committee. And we're just delighted to be in community with you this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Watson-Harris.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Deidre Pierce, school board member for District 3 and former ESPLOST committee member. Nice to see you.
Okay, welcome, Mrs. Pierce.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Fincher. I'm DeKalb County Schools parent.
Okay, Mrs. Fincher, good evening.
I'm Nancy Kelly and my camera doesn't work, but thank you for letting me attend.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kelly.
I'm Angela Mackey.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, is it Mackey?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do you want more information about me?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, my name is Angela Mackey. So I'm a former PAC member at Lakeside High School, and I'm currently the foundation president at Lakeside High School.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much and welcome. Good evening. Mr. Hammond, Mr. Hammonds.
Hey guys, Lance Hammond, serve as first vice for the DeKalb NAACP and chair of the Rockbridge Coalition. Just happy to be here with you.
All right, welcome, Mr. Hammonds, and good evening. I see a William Bale. Mr. Vale?
Yes.
Oh, is it Mrs. Vale? I'm sorry. Did you want to introduce yourself as a visitor?
Sorry.
Mrs. Vale, did you want to introduce yourself as a visitor to our committee?
¿Qué dice la maestra? Sorry. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I'm the daughter of the mom of my brothers, and my mom is. Oh, ¿qué dijo? No entendí. My mom is asking, what do you said again?
Just asking her to introduce herself.
Oh, que digas, ¿qué es tu nombre? ¿Cómo eres? Brenda Calvac. Brenda Calvac. Brenda Calvac nomás. She's my mom, and her name is Brenda Calvac. Elias.
Okay, thank you very much. And tell your mom good evening.
Oh, buenas tardes. Okay.
Okay, did Ms. Harris, I know you've been in our meetings once, previously, but did you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. This is Melissa Harris. My camera is acting a little bit strange, so I can't show my face, but it is great to be with you all this evening.
All right, good to see you, Ms. Harris. I think I see one more, and it's Charles.
Yeah,
Burbridge.
I am Charles Burbridge. Hi, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for DeKalb County School District.
All right, welcome, Mr. Burbridge. We've got a full house today, ladies and gentlemen. And gee, I wonder why. Okay, so Monica, are you going to share your screen so that we can share the agenda? Or did you give me presenters rights? Oh, I can share my screen. Got it.
I said it for everyone, yes.
Okay, awesome. Can everyone see Hopefully
Yes.
you can see my screen because I can't see you right now.
Yes.
All right, this is our October 27th, 2021 meeting. We are at number 2, review and approval of our meeting agenda. I do have one update. We are going to move 8C, advisory committee member attendance, right underneath 3, right before 4. So it'll be 4 and everything else will move down 1. And this is the old agenda with the old times on it, so please forgive the times. All right. Can we, by unanimous consent, agree to the meeting agenda for October 27, 2021 as corrected, if there are no objections? Hearing none, then our October 27, 2021 meeting agenda with the noted correction is approved. Number 3, review and approval of the minutes from November, excuse me, I said November, oh Lord, September 22, 2021 meeting. The meeting minutes were distributed. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes? Any corrections to the September 22, 2021 meeting minutes? All right, so hearing none, can we by unanimous consent agree that the meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2021 are approved as distributed if there are no objections? All right, our meeting minutes from September 22nd, 2021 are now approved. Now we will go into the advisory committee member attendance. We do have one committee member who has 3, now 4 consecutive absences per our bylaws. That means that it should be brought up to the committee, and she is brought up before the committee to be removed.
Hey, Kathy.
Yes.
This is Kim Creighton. So per our bylaws, if you have not been in attendance for 3 consecutive times, then that is grounds for removal. Is that correct?
That is correct. But we have to, we as a committee have to vote on the removal. Okay, and the person that we are talking about is Kia Leggett.
Okay, so if I may, I move that in accordance with our Constitution, and that Ms. Leggett has missed 3 consecutive meetings, I move that we vote to remove her from the committee.
Okay, and just a correction, we don't have a constitution, we do have bylaws.
I mean bylaws, I'm sorry. Wrong committee. Yeah, bylaws.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so.
This is Daniel, I second.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Walker. It has been moved and seconded that we remove Ms. Kia Leggett from the Superintendent, ESPLOST Superintendent Advisory Committee. Is there any discussion?
Good evening, this is Lisa. Has she reached out to you? Does she have any extenuating circumstances going on?
No, she has not reached out. I tried to reach out to her a couple of months ago, and we were to schedule some time to talk, and she missed that meeting. And she is on the distribution just like everyone else. And one of the reasons why I stress that attendance is extremely important, because we cannot do the business of this advisory committee unless everyone attends. Are there any other questions? All right, to the to the ESPLOST Advisory Committee, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So the question is, all in favor of removing Kia Leggett from the ESPLOST Citizens Advisory Committee, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
those opposed say no. All right, so Ms. Leggett is now officially removed from our committee, and we will send her a letter indicating that. All right, so we will now go into our regular agenda item, discussion follow-up matters from prior meeting, 5A.
Okay, and I'll roll 5A directly into number 6, the contract award list also. So there were 4 items that were ESPLOST related that were approved. The first was the approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Doraville to facilitate the loan of the Doraville school bell to the DeKalb County School District, and that will be placed at the new Doraville United Elementary School. The second item is it's a ESPLOST 4 project closeout of Georgia DOE projects to receive the state capital outlay reimbursement amount totaling $869,000.
I'm here.
Sorry. Totaling $869,472.50. The third item is submittal of the FY 2023 capital outlay project application totaling $2,039,031 going to the state DOE. And the last item was the request to the Georgia Department of Education for site approval for the Culinary Arts Classroom Edition at Powers High School. So we had those 4 items for 5A and 6. None of those were contract items, so we had no contract items to go to the board this past board meeting. So that covers items 5A and 6.
Hey, I'm sorry, Ms. Turner, if you would please mute yourself unless you have a question. And if we can all mute ourselves unless we are presenting or we have a question, we would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, Richard, sorry.
Were there any questions? Or did you need me to go back over it?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Richard on the items presented? Again, someone that's on an iPhone, it's 404-291 and something 10739. If you would please mute yourself to make sure that everyone can hear.
Dice que si pueden poner en mute su teléfono para que puedan hacer preguntas.
Monica, will you see if you can mute those that are not muted?
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for them. Well, never mind, I found them. It's not letting me mute them. Okay, I think we've got them muted now. All right. Are there any questions? Again, are there any questions for Richard in regards to the items presented to the Board of Education for their October meeting? All right, so hearing none, Richard, do you want to move into your contract award list?
Yeah, so since none of the items were contracts, we had no contracts awarded at the October board meeting.
All right. So there should be no questions for that.
Yeah.
All right, so moving right along to 7, review of the community feedback collected from the ESPLOST committee. Mr. Walker.
I have no feedback to report on this.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Walker. Number 8, our MSR review. Mel.
Thank you, Chairwoman Blakeney, and welcome committee, visitors, and Superintendent Watson-Harris. With the abbreviated agenda, I'll forego the detailed review of the MSR, if you don't mind, and I'll go right to the highlights and walk through those quickly.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I should be sharing now. Hopefully you can see the screen.
Yes, we can.
We can see it.
First off, we like to point out that our cost performance ratios in the MSR tables 8, 9, and 10A through 10H are in good order. That reflects by the green highlights in the right-hand column on the MSR that we usually walk through. In terms of procurement for September, one project was advertised for a builder. It was the Green Forest Drive facility, and that was for design build services so that that facility can serve as a swing space for the E.L. Miller Capital Project renewal project. Projects completed in September include Fence Installation Group C, which includes, as you can see, Briar Vista, Cary Reynolds, Chestnut, Dresden, Henderson Mill, Kingsley, Oak Grove, Vanderlyn, and Woodward Elementaries, along with Cross Keys High School, Kittredge Magnet, and Sequoia Middle School. We also completed the track at the Dunwoody High School. You may remember the field was completed in August. And the Indian Creek Elementary School, technically the old facility, was demolished, and we're working on the improvements or the new construction for the new entry drive. In terms of status of our major construction projects, you can see that the Cedar Grove High School auditorium is listed as 52% complete. The Indian Creek Elementary School, Phase 2, is about 20% complete. That earthwork and underground utility work will set us up to complete the new entry drive from the Indian Creek Drive. For Group A turf and track replacements, Clarkston High School is 90% complete. Tucker High School is 90% complete. And for Group B, Miller Grove High School is about 70% complete. Martin Luther King High School at 85%. Lithonia High School, 65% complete. Stevenson High School at 40% complete. And Stone Mountain High School, 10% complete. There were no new delays to projects reported in the period. Existing delays that we discussed previously included Cary Reynolds Elementary and Cedar Grove High School addition. More specifically, at Cary Reynolds, you may remember that we were delayed primarily because of the collaboration with developing the correct scope in concert with our facilities folks and we are now in the design phase there. Site investigations are complete, and the architect engineers provided a preliminary report, and subsequently the architect has advised that they believe they can expedite their design work and overcome the delay in the schedule, and they're working with their engineering team to make that happen. At Cedar Grove High School, my apologies, the auditorium addition has slowed down. We actually talked with the builder about that a month or so ago. Our observations and recordings show that they haven't picked up the pace that we really had hoped for. So at today's owner architect contractors meeting, we asked for the builder's president to be in attendance. The builder's president promised to provide a recovery schedule in time for a meeting with the interim chief operating officer, Richard Boyd, on this call next week. Right now, the builder assures us that they can make the March 18th, 2022 completion date, but that's beyond the original target of December 31st. We'll have a report on that improvement, hopeful schedule improvement next period. No claims by any of the district contractors or vendors in the period, and change order number 5 for Smoke Rise Elementary School in the amount of $201,040 for the cost of extended general conditions due to the revisions to the school's entry drive that everyone's aware of to accommodate that new traffic signal at Flintstone Drive. In terms of overall status for SPLOST 5 projects, you can see that 10 projects are complete, 20 projects are in design, 10 in GC procurement, and 10 in construction. Almost 30 of those 40 projects will complete by the end of calendar 2022. In the interest of time, I'll skip directly to some photo highlights. This is our Dunwoody High School new football, soccer, lacrosse field, and the new track installation at the end of September. The track was not yet striped. Striping completes on that track this week, weather permitting. Here's the old Indian Creek site. You can see the new building in the background, and the new entry drive will span from Indian Creek Drive to the new facility that should complete. Right now, we're thinking before the end of the year. We mentioned perimeter fence installation. Here's a good look at new perimeter fence at Sequoia Middle School. And here's a quick snapshot of the Kingsley Elementary School perimeter fence installation project. That concludes my abbreviated report, Chairwoman. If there are any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
All right, thank you very much, Mel. Are there any questions for Mel in regards to the MSR report?
Hi, this is Sabrina. I have a question for Mr. Butler.
Yes, ma'am.
As a Smoke Rise homeowner and active parent on our community page, can you please provide an update on our new school with no playground equipment? What is the status of that?
Surely.
You want me to respond to that, Mel?
Thank you, Richard.
Sure. So we actually had received confirmation from the vendor earlier this week that they have received some parts that they needed to complete the installation of the portion of the playground. And we are going to be giving the vendor a notice to proceed this week so they can go ahead and install a portion of the playground. There are 2 other portions that we can look at in the future, potentially.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mel in regards to the MSR report? Abbreviated report. All right, hearing none, we'll move right along to new business. The CARES Fund COVID-19 presentation. I think that has been moved to next month.
Yes.
So we will have that presentation next month.
Yes.
And we will move into 9B, which is facilities maintenance program.
Okay. So the facilities update that I have, they completed 498 of the open work orders from the SSC work order system. There are still 2,036 that are open as of October 20th. They've completed 1,848 of the 3,884 corrective work orders that were open when our vendor SSC, when their contract ran out. They're continuing working on setting up the Munis work order system. That's our new system. And they've started training the facility managers in that system. They've repaired the floor in one of the portables at Ashford Park. They've replaced sewage pumps at Dunwoody High School, installed a new rooftop unit at Briar Vista, and they've been working on the heater or the pool heater at Lakeside High School. And let's see, hit a few more highlights here. Repaired the HVAC for the band and chorus room at Lithonia Middle. And let's see, Arabia Mountain Gym lights have been completed. They started the, they painted the cafeteria at Stone Mountain Elementary School, completed some tree trimming at Freedom. They've worked on the auditorium stage lights, repaired those at Southwest DeKalb, and they've repaired the pool. They've completed the repairs at the pool at Columbia High School, including new lights and replastering the pool. The new light poles have been installed at Flat Shows Elementary School, and they have they've replaced the water heater for the kitchen at Vanderlyn Elementary School. Oh, and they also completed emergency repair at Dunwoody High School due to a flooding from a restroom at Dunwoody High School. That's the report from this past month.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Are there any questions for Richard in regards to the facilities maintenance program? Okay, any questions? All right, I actually had a question, a follow-up from our conversation from last month, Richard. Wanted to hear about any follow-ups on Stevenson Middle School's mold problem.
So, I thought we had addressed that, but the we had and I don't have my notes with me on that. When that was addressed, we had a vendor go out. They wiped down all the surfaces there. They replaced any ceiling tile that had evidence of mold or mildew on them. What they believe the cause was, and if I'm not sure if our maintenance director of maintenance is listening or not, so he might correct me, but there was it was an outdoor air issue with the mechanical unit that was running basically full time, bringing in a lot of outdoor or moisture in the outdoor air into the inside the building.
Okay, was that repaired?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, you hadn't gone to look at it. I think the question was that you want to go out and actually look at what was going on at Stevenson Middle.
Yeah, no, I haven't been out there to look at it. I was getting this report from Bobby Moncrief, our director of facilities, who has been out there.
Okay. Well, like I shared last month, my concern is that it takes a while for mold to get to that point. And I want to make sure that that does not, is not a deterrent for or a negative for our scholars. So I would like to see some follow-up on that as well. Because I want to make sure, that we have the environment cleaned up for the scholars to learn. And
we can have our, we do have a person that's over environmental. We can have them actually walk out and make sure that there's no, additional growth now that it's been a little while, make sure the wipe down and the ceiling tile replacement that was done, cleared the issue up.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
I'm going to text Mr. Moncrief right now.
I have a question on that, Richard.
Yes,
So the wipe down, that's wonderful. But when he goes to test, is he testing the air for any evidence or presence of mold? Because, while we may have wiped it down, there still could potentially be mold spores in the air. So is the air being tested as well, or it's just we're wiping the walls and replacing ceiling tile?
No, it's they do an air test also after after everything's cleaned up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But I'll get with Mr. Moncrief, and we'll have somebody go out and just check to make sure that nothing is restarted.
Okay.
I'm actually texting him right now so I don't forget.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions in regards to the facilities maintenance program? All right, so we'll move right along to 9C, notification of upcoming community meetings and other events.
All right, so the last, I guess the CMP presentation that we had was earlier tonight at 6. There are planned for in mid-November for 2 CMP town hall meetings.
Okay, hold on one second, Richard, I'm sorry. We have a question in the chat. I do want to advise our visitors that you are a visitor to our meeting. This is our meeting. If you have any questions that pertain to anything, my suggestion to you would be please email them to our email box for the ESPLOST Advisory Committee. All right, I'm sorry, Richard.
That's all right. So we had the last CMP town hall, the regional CMP town hall tonight at 6 o'clock. And what we have planned right now, and it's a to be determined plan, in mid-November, there'll be 2 CMP town hall meetings to present the draft CMP. And as we get the dates for those, we will put those on the website so everybody can virtually attend those meetings as well. And that's all we have right now for the upcoming public meetings I'm aware of.
You said those were in November?
Mid-November, yes.
Okay, awesome. Any questions for Richard in regards to the CMP town hall meetings? All righty, we are going to move right into unfinished business. The open committee positions, the plan for that. Now we have an additional open position.
So we've gotten in a number of applications. Looking at those, actually, I will complete the review of those applications tomorrow. We will make a selection from those requests, a brief resume, and then our intention right now is to conduct interviews for through the week of November 8th. I will say this is, we do have the 3 positions that we need to fill, but this will also be for a pool of candidates that in the future, if someone decided that they, could no longer serve, that we could then call somebody and have them, call the next person on the list and have them join the committee. And the last time we've done that, it was 2019 when we did that. So we'll do that again, and I'll be able to bring people on quicker in the future.
Okay. I know there were Ming and Kim were interested in participating in the interview process.
Yes. Yeah. And
Ming, were you still interested in doing that this time, this go round?
Unfortunately, I don't think my schedule will allow it this time. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, no worries. Did anyone else on the advisory committee want to participate in the interviews?
Yes, Madam Chair. Was that
Sabrina?
Kim? Yes, please.
Yeah. I just want to make sure. I'm sorry, Sabrina, go ahead.
Oh, no, she was capturing my name as interested as well.
Okay. And did you get me, Kathy?
Yes, I did get you, Kim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do have a quick question. I have a quick question for Richard, if I may, regarding the pool. And this is just a suggestion. Well, I guess my first question is, how many when you create the pool, how many candidates are going to be in the pool? And my follow-up question to that, because I think that's an excellent idea. My follow-up question to that is, so that we don't run into what you ran into in 2019 where our pool is depleted, is that we, as people, or as we pull candidates from the pool, that we could, establish whether it's going to be 5, 7, or 10 candidates, where we establish a number for the pool, that we keep that amount at all times, so that we don't ever have to run into a lag per se,
right,
while we're trying to. So my first question is, how many?
Have a minimum number.
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah.
My suggestion.
No, I think that would work.
And then just make sure that we always keep that number. So if you pull, then we go, if you pull 2, we go find 2 to keep that, whatever that minimum, like I said, if it's 5 people, 7 people, that we will always have a ready pool of candidates to pull from, so that we're not lacking committee members. Yeah.
And we can also, the other thing too, with it being a couple of years since we did the last pool, we could frequently check with the pool. Well, I'll say frequently, maybe annually check with the pool and see if they are still interested. And if those aren't interested, or no longer have the availability, we could then bring some others in too. Monica, do you remember how many applications we had? It was quite a number.
We had well over 30.
Okay. So yeah, so we'll have a good number that will be in the pool this time. But no, that's a good idea, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did anyone else on the advisory committee want to be a part of the interview process?
I don't have time to sit in all of them, but if you need another person to sit in, I can make some availability for 1 or 2.
Okay, thank you, Derek. That would be wonderful. Daniel, I know the vice chair was a part of the interview process as well. Did you want to do that, Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
This is Lisa. I can also serve as a backup if you run short.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
Remember, I said backup.
Okay, I have you as backup, but we didn't have any backup last time, so I'm happy to hear backup. And Derek, I'll list you as backup as well.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you. All right, still under unfinished business, I have to shameless plug, and I'm sorry, I don't like to be in this position to do this, but you know, what we had to do and remove an advisory committee member, I don't want to be in that position any longer. So I'm asking, you know, when you get the meeting agenda, the meeting notice, please put it on your calendar. I normally at the end of each agenda will put, and I bolded it, made it bigger, underlined it. The next meeting is, so you can put it on your calendar. So I would ask, please, if there are any extenuating circumstances where you cannot make our meetings, if you would please let DeKalb County School System, Richard Boyd and Monica Law know, and with the CC to myself and Daniel Walker, so that we are aware of that you can't make it and that we may have an issue with quorum, so that we can plan accordingly. So I can't stress enough again, you know, it's very important for us to get the business of our advisory committee done. If we don't have a quorum, we cannot do that. So again, if you're going to be late, if you are not going to attend, please send us a notice. Any questions? And yes, we, Daniel and myself do get an attendance log for each meeting, so that we know who is not present. Any questions? All righty. Barry, I think it's your time now.
Okay, I believe I'm getting that started. Good evening again. This is Cheryl Watson Harris, the proud superintendent of DeKalb County School District. And we are delighted to be in community with all of you this evening. We thank you for your service to this very, very important committee. Before we dive into the presentation, and there will be several members of the team presenting this evening, we wanted to just share kind of a message from some of our students. So I'm going to ask Ms. Harris if you can just load up the video. Thank you.
Innovative, forward-thinking, schools of the future. That's how we describe the DeKalb County School District.
We are leaders in K-12 education. A new comprehensive master plan has been developed to make sure our schools continue to be the best and to help make sure school improvements are made throughout the DCSD community.
We know students can reach their fullest potential when schools are well-maintained and capital resources are up to date.
These resources and investments not only benefit the DCSD community, but also the taxpayers of DeKalb County. Every 5 years, school facilities and technology equipment are assessed to make sure we are keeping up with all of the changes and latest school innovations.
District leaders take a look at construction needs to address any overcrowding and ways to accommodate growth so that DeKalb County School District scholars can thrive.
District leaders also analyze STEM programming and career, technical, and agricultural education programs to support lifelong learning and a 21st century learning environment. Did you know that approximately 20 DCSD campuses have earned a certification in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics during the first of 2 district-wide reviews this school year? That's amazing.
Technology is also a top priority in ensuring access to quality education for all. To achieve and excel, our schools provide technology at your fingertips and offer an infrastructure and instructional tools to support top-of-the-line connectivity and cybersecurity.
So, how do we pay for these general improvements? It's called an ESPLOST.
And it's a 1-penny sales tax that allows school districts to fund their capital improvements.
The voters of DeKalb County will be asked to extend the 1-penny sales tax for another 5 years. This education special purpose local option sales tax is critical to building our future and equipping our community for success.
later. I just wanted to share with the committee that we've spent the last couple of months in close partnership with internal and external colleagues to engage in a diagnostic of our ESPLOST program. This is above and beyond what this committee does. I've also had the chance to work very closely with our colleagues in Metro Atlanta to talk about successes of previous ESPLOST programs, as well as we set ourselves up for a successful ESPLOST 6 program. At that time, in our effort to continue to build public trust, we know that there were some concerns expressed by external stakeholders regarding ESPLOST 4 and ESPLOST 5. And so to that end, we contracted with Ms. Berry Thompson. I think there's some people who are not on mute, to assess the accountability functionality. Ms. Creighton, maybe you can go on mute.
And Monica, will you mute Kim?
I'm working on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, we brought on Ms. Berry Thompson to assess the accountability functionality within our operations division and to make recommendations to improve accuracy, timeliness, segregation of duties, and overall departmental processes to have the most efficient and efficiencies related to our ESPLOST programs. I do want to just acknowledge before I go on that I know we have several members of our Board of Education either in the session with us this evening or watching on our DCD TV. So we want to say thank you very much for their support and their leadership. What we know is that there's work to be done to strengthen our program and provide a transparent view into the district's spending. And we have identified a few immediate changes that will move us in the right direction. So in today's presentation, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from Ms. Thompson in terms of her findings and share some of our immediate next steps that we're taking to ensure that we continue to move onward and upward and that our records are all aligned. You're also going to have an opportunity to share how we intend or hear how we intend to fund some of the major projects that were the most concern to our external stakeholders as well as our internal stakeholders. And then to discuss some of the funding forecasts for ESPLOST 6. With that, again, I am very privileged to have had this opportunity to work with Ms. Berry. We invite her to join us for the presentation and then also have Mr. Boyd join us as well. Thank you very much. Ms. Berry.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try to share my screen because I think Melissa was having trouble getting it to present. Not that one, Melissa. I'm trying to do the ESPLOST one. I apologize. I'm not as familiar with Zoom as I am the other one. All right, so are you all seeing the video link now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so in reviewing the ESPLOST for ESPLOST 4 and ESPLOST 5, there were concerns about differences in the systems. And so what we've found is that basically the initial budgets that were loaded to ProLiance, which is the system that creates the monthly status report, the MSRs, and the budgets that were loaded to the financial system, they did match. The initial financial system at that point in time when ESPLOST 4 began was a system called Crosspoint. And the budgets that were loaded were the same. Crosspoint continued to be the system of record through 2018. And then in 2019, we began with Munis. Munis is now the system of record. So ProLiance was continuous throughout the entire span of the two SPLOSTs, but we switched financial systems, and therein lies the rub. So at the point in time that we switched the systems over and continuing on, what we see is that the expenditures reported in ProLiance are less than the expenditures reported in the financial system, because after about SPLOST 3, additional items became eligible for SPLOST: purchases of buses, helping with the infrastructure of the computer systems, buying some computers, payroll for staff that works on nothing but SPLOST projects. And so these things began being funded by the SPLOST money, as well as repaying bonds. In our earlier bonds on SPLOST 4, we didn't borrow that much, 30 million or so, but SPLOST 5 was a lot more. It was like 140. And so we have repayments that start to be sizable. So the bottom line is that the budgets that were loaded in the systems initially in Crosspoint and ProLiance matched. When Munis was brought on board, the budget was higher, but then it was adjusted so that they matched. The current budgets that you see in both of those systems, and we're talking as of the end of September, are within $1 million being the same on SPLOST 4 at at $637 million. They're within $1 million of each other. So they're materially accurate. I didn't verify every bit of it. And then the expenditures are where the challenge is coming in. So what we see is that the MSR is reporting on the spending related to projects, building a new school, doing renovations, things of that nature. But the picture of SPLOST is much larger than that because of these bond repayments, payroll, things of that nature. So the bottom line is that there is no difference there is no missing money. When you look at the financials as reported by the accounting department, it would appear that there is less cash than there should be if we look at the MSR for disbursements. But if we look at the Munis system for disbursements, they are very much in alignment with the remaining cash. So between our two SPLOSTs, we're seeing that there is 130 million less being reported as spent for SPLOST 4 by the ProLiance system than by Munis, and 150 million less by ProLiance than Munis on SPLOST 5. So that's a total of 280 million out of 933 million. But that variance is caused by the fact that we now are recording payroll and technology and bus purchases and other expenses that the ProLiance system is not in the stream of. They don't see those invoices. They can't capture them. They can't record them. We've started talking about some processes to address that. And then the other thing that I did note was that relative to project management, the timing of some of the project completions has caused us to convert less than the possible amount of reimbursements from the Georgia Department of Education's Capital Outlay Fund, but that money is set aside for the district. So if we don't recover it on one project, we simply apply for it on another project. It's not that it goes away, it just becomes funds we apply for with a different project. Then the next question would obviously be, so what's your thoughts about what you need to do about it? So the main areas of problem between the two systems are that the ProLiance system does a very good job of keeping up with the contracts, the changes, and the Munis system is just coming on board with that functionality. So we've identified that as a need, and we're going to work to load all the contracts into Munis so that it can track them like the ProLiance system currently does. Then we're going to create a process for processing contract modifications and purchase orders in the Munis system. And this is toward the objective of the second thing that ProLiance does well, which is knowing what the remaining balance is on a contract that is currently unpaid. At any point in time, we have between 40 and 50 million of that, so it's non-trivial. So we'll be creating requisitions to hold the remaining balance of the vendor contracts. And then that will allow us to report on ESPLOST from Munis with monthly financial reports. And then we just want to acknowledge that this is changes to the process. So I have a database background and a computer system background. That's part of why I was engaged for this, was to actually get the information straight from the database. And so we'll be working on testing the new processes we want to put in place, documenting those processes and vetting them with staff who does it all the time, and then doing broad training so that we can begin to use the Munis system. And that's pretty much it on the ESPLOST. It's just the main thing that I want to emphasize is that whenever any of us would look at the financials coming out of the accounting department, which was Munis, the system of record, and it would talk about how much cash we had, it would say, well, you've got less cash than you would think you would have if you looked at the MSR to figure out how much you had spent. But if you looked at the Munis system to figure out how much they had actually dispersed, it was a much bigger population because of things that don't go through ProLiance, things related to paying off the bonds, which were much larger in ESPLOST 5, and buying buses and other things, and a lot of technology that we hadn't, that doesn't flow through Munis. I mean, it doesn't flow through ProLiance.
And I think a good point there too is that Munis is a financial reporting or a financial tool, whereas ProLiance is it's a project update tool, or it's a project reporting tool. So that is what the AECOM uses to keep track of the status of the projects that they are working on. It's not ProLiance. Never was used or was intended to be used as a financial reporting tool. It's a project update reporting tool. Do we want to move into the CARES Act funding portion of the presentation?
If there aren't any questions, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to continue to drive the slides for now. Let me know if that needs to change.
All right.
Hey, sorry, I did have one question. So what's the timeline on trying to get integration?
That's a good question. So I believe that it's possible for us to start reporting as of the end of the calendar year, because there's like a couple weeks lag in accounting to be able to pull the information for the end of a month with accruals and all. So I believe by the end of this fiscal year, or this calendar year, we'll be able to do reporting out of the Munis system for everything except possibly the remaining balance on contracts. But I think that we can ably report on budget because it's backed up by what ProLiance has. They're just so close. So I feel confident about the budgets, and the actuals I feel confident about because it's backed up by the cash. So the only thing that I think would be lacking is being able to see the commitments, that 40 or 50 million out there. But we can use the knowledge that we have in ProLiance and say, well, it's better than nothing, and it's quite good. And then by the end of this fiscal year, we hope to have all the contracts on board, but we're doing it in the manner by which all other contracts of the district are done. So we also have to load them to a shared drive. We have to get all the electronic copies in place, gather up the change orders, and then we need to audit every one of them to make sure we understand what the remaining balance due to the vendor is, so that as we load it, we're certain that we're not putting too much or too little in the pocket for disbursements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I had a secondary question. I heard fiscal year and calendar year. The fiscal year for the district is June 30th, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it, you'll have it by the calendar year as of the end of December, or you will have it by the end of June 2022?
Both. I'm sorry I wasn't clear. At the end of this calendar year, December, we should be able to present reports that repair this $280 million gap because we pull it from the financial system where the expenditures are correct. So we'll be able to tell you the budget, we'll be able to tell you the actual expenditures. But the one thing that I can't pull from the Munis financial system as of December would be the remaining balance on the contracts, because so much work is needed to load the contracts. So what I'm saying, and this is just me speaking, but if somebody asked me to create the report, I would use the remaining commitment balances from ProLiance with a footnote saying that they were sourced from ProLiance as the best that I could provide between December and June. But by June, we should be able to have all of the open contracts at their correct balances loaded into the Munis system, such that by the beginning of the next fiscal year, we are reporting all facts from there, which includes the remaining balance on any open contracts. Does that help?
It does. I just wanted to make sure that the efforts are being placed and that, of course, the expectation is realistic if we're expecting something in December and it was really intended for the end of June. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am. The main thing that we want to look at doing by December is, now that as a group, the district staff has discovered that we have this sizable gap in the actuals, 280 million out of 933 between the two SPLOSTs. We want to repair that very quickly in a somewhat MEDAX approach by reporting from the Munis system for the actuals effective with the next reporting cycle or the one after it, so that we are giving you information that closes that gap between the cash balance that we have and the actuals that we're reporting, starting to get it out of Munis. But I want to be clear that we will not be able to provide the remaining contract balances for a much longer period of time because of the amount of work involved in getting loaded into that system accurately.
This is Lisa, right? I have a question. Will that require additional training for your current staff or adding staff to make this be consistent?
Chuck would be able to speak better than me to the staffing issue because it's handled in his procurement department and I work in operations. But it will, for the most part, the functions that are done in this department would stay the same. A few new things may be added as we determine the best possible strategy for using Munis. And it may be that some staff out here start adding the change orders to Munis and it goes through an approval process, but it won't be radically different than what they do now here.
Right. It's a process that we use in the other divisions where we put contracts into the Munis contract management system. There'll be a change in process for the facilities and operations team. So there'll be retraining. Shouldn't require more staff, but it will require training the staff on a new process for them. It's not a new process for the district. It's just a new process for how we're handling the construction related contracts and change orders. So that's why I think Barry is asking for more time for that portion of it. The monthly financial reports that show a budget and expenditures. I don't know if you ever look at our monthly financial reports already that we typically review for the general funds. You'll see that we have budgets and we have expenditures, but we also have a column in there called encumbrances. And what Barry is essentially saying is that we could start reporting on the budgets and expenditures fairly quickly. It's the encumbrances that will require the change in the processes and the retraining, because the contracts and requisitioning processes haven't been implemented yet for these commitments. They've been tracking them in ACOM's ProLiance system, where you'll see items like contracts and commitments listed there, but that's from their project management point of view and not from financial point of view.
And I would add one other slight thing to that, which is there's actually some savings of manpower for the operations department by doing this. Currently, they create purchase orders when they receive an invoice. So by creating one purchase order that holds the entire balance of the contract and paying it down, there'll be only the need to put the contract in, put a purchase order in to hold that balance, and then put the invoices in to pay it down, as opposed to creating a rec to create a purchase order to pay an invoice and doing that with each one.
All right. Are there any other questions related to that? We can move on into the operations portion of the CARES Act funding. All right, I'll go ahead and start. So for the CARES Act funding for CARES 2 and CARES 3, operations itself is receiving $130 million. What we've looked at doing with that $130 million, first, we're going to upgrade our buses. We're going to provide air conditioning on our buses that are still I'd say young enough, new enough to where it would make sense. We don't want to put air conditioning on a 14-year-old bus when we know at year 15 we'll be phasing that out and buying a new bus. But on our newer buses, and I believe the number was about 500 of them, we'll be putting air conditioning on those buses. And just so everyone's aware, all the new buses that we are buying all have air conditioning on them. And then as buses age out and we replace them, the new ones will come with air conditioning. And then we'll, like I said, on about 500 of the buses, we'll be installing air conditioning on those. We're also going to have bus cameras. And this will be a number of cameras, camera systems of both stop arm cameras, cameras inside the bus looking out towards the front. So you see the bus driver's view, and then cameras focused on the interior of the bus as well. We're going to have that was about $10 million. We're going to have about $5.25 million to support our work order system with our past vendor leaving. We will need a little outside support. So we'll have some contractors that will come in on an as-needed basis to address some of the open corrective work orders. I want to clarify these are corrective things that have been, a air conditioner that's broken that needs to be repaired. Then also we're going to do an ADA assessment. While we're doing the comprehensive master plan work and the facility condition analysis work now, even though we have those studies that were done, they're not as detailed as a full ADA review where you literally, and I did one of these many years ago for Agnes Scott College, and we literally went in and you test the opening force of doors. You measure the distance between, around a door opening to make sure that you have the appropriate opening, door widths, slopes of sidewalks and slopes of ramps. So we will be doing that type of assessment. And then we're going to set aside the appropriate amount of funds that we need to address the highest priority ADA needs identified by this assessment. With those items, we're going to still have remaining about $114 million that we'll be using for roof and facility improvements through the CARES 2 and CARES 3 funds. Go ahead, Barry.
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Boyd, very
Yes.
quickly, I just wanted to lift up that the buckets of work that you see here were determined by the community survey that we sent out for the CARES Act 3 funding. So these were kind of the biggest requests or areas of requests from our stakeholder group. Thank you.
Okay. So as you'll see, there are And let me apologize, it might get a little noisy here because I believe my wife is getting home from work and my dog just made a rush to the door. So he's liable to start whimpering in just a minute. But so we have nearly $650 million worth of roof and HVAC replacements needed at 132 of our facilities over the next 5 years. And as you noticed, I said about 114 million coming out of SPLOST. Out of CARES 2 and 3. So our other available funding sources that we have, ESPLOST 5, there were $65 million worth of work at 25 schools. That was just HVAC and roof work, and that represents about 10% of that $650 million. There was additional revenue from ESPLOST, from the sales tax revenue, and we have about $40 million worth of roof and or HVAC work at 13 schools that we'll be doing. That's about 6%. The CARES Act, the proposed $114 million for roof and HVAC at just over 30 schools, that will be 18% of the work. And the CMP new construction, what is currently being contemplated as new construction in the comprehensive master plan, that will address about $85 million worth of the existing roof and HVAC needs. So that's about 13%. And then ESPLOST 6 facility improvements, we're proposing about $70 million for facility condition improvements there, or 11%. So the total we will address nearly $374 million, or 58% of that $650 million of roof and HVAC needs over the next 5 years. Go ahead, Barry. So our buckets that we're looking at for ESPLOST 6 currently, and the final list will depend on the final CMP recommendations, but the potential major projects that were being discussed in the CMP town hall meetings, the buckets that we're looking at, new facilities, we're considering $385 million, or 55% of the total of our proposed SPLOST 6 project list. Facility condition improvements, again, that would be $70 million, or about 10%. Technology improvements, currently we are looking at $70 million for that. Buses, vehicles, and other capital equipment, we're looking at $35 million for that, or about 5%. Management, support, and professional services, and this represents both staff salaries, vendors that we bring in, either or both a program manager and other vendors that we have throughout the course of the program for $35 million, or 5%. And then we're going to have a healthy contingency and reserve of $105 million. And this is one thing that we did not do effectively enough in SPLOST 5. What we found in looking at some of our other or our surrounding neighbors is that they had a contingency, and we had a contingency also, but they had a reserve fund where when they were planning their projects, they didn't plan out to the full 100% or 100% minus contingency. They actually had a reserve, usually about 5% of their funds that they would hold in reserve for project increases, for construction cost increases. If any of you are knowledgeable of current construction costs, you know that they've increased significantly over the past year with the pandemic and with the inability to get products in. And you keep hearing stories of jammed ports in San Francisco and Savannah and others, and these are all driving prices up. So that's what this the reserve would be, and then our contingency is what we normally have. So what we're looking at, our proposed total right now is $700 million for ESPLOST 6. Go ahead, Barry. So from the CMP recommendations for new facilities, what we are considering at this point is a new Sequoia cluster. with the new middle school and Sequoia High School. We would also build a consolidated Dresden and Cary Reynolds Elementary School, build a new Cross Keys High School, build a new Stoneview Elementary School, new Jolly Elementary, and a new Idlewood Elementary Schools. Rebuild Clarkston High School with the new Clarkston Middle School on the Clarkston site. Build an addition and major renovation at Druid Hills High School, and build a new Performing Arts Academy at the Avondale High School site. We would also create early learning centers in each region, and then create K-8 schools at Austin Elementary, the new Dunwoody Chambly Elementary School, which is the existing Shallerford site. We'd also have K-8s at Smoke Rise, Indian Creek, Pleasantdale, and Peachcrest Elementary Schools, and then creating a new Career Tech Academy at McNair and a new Cyber Technology and Engineering Academy at Towers High School. Go ahead, Barry. All right, so just we have about 3 slides of some definitions here. So the facility condition improvements would be the renovation of the existing school facilities, including replacing one or more of major building systems such as a roof or an HVAC or electrical. Examples of this would be roof replacement at Winbrook, the window and HVAC replacement at Laurel Ridge, which both of those projects are already funded with SPLOST 5. The ESPLOST 6 funds would also allow more schools to receive facility condition improvements beyond the existing SPLOST 5 projects and the proposed CARES fund projects. Go ahead, Barry. The technology improvements would be the purchase of new computers and tablets and other devices, as well as improvements to the district's infrastructure, such as the wireless and our fiber optic connections. Technology improvements also include communication hardware and security upgrades, such as cameras, intercoms, and reporting systems. It would also include things like security upgrades to our network. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the attacks on systems, the ransom attacks on various systems, and where companies actually have to pay money to get their system back. ESPLOST funds also to deliver a more robust program of device availability to the district students. Buses, vehicles, and capital equipment is just that. It's the purchase of new school buses. Our Director of Transportation has a standard for when he reviews the buses and when they need to be replaced, and we need to do that on an annual basis to phase out older buses. It also includes facilities maintenance vehicles, and then things like kitchen equipment, band equipment, etc. Next. The management support and professional services, as I mentioned before, it's salaries for district staff, for the contracted program managers, and then also any other professional service firms that we need to use in the work of the SPLOST projects. And then, as I mentioned before, the contingency fund is our basically the contingencies used when the construction costs rise and unexpectedly, and then the revenue fund is a separate set aside to protect against any sales tax revenues being less than what we had expected. So if revenue comes in less. Next. And that is it. Ms. Watson-Harris, did you have some closing comments you wanted to make?
Oh, thank you so much. Just again, thank you to Barry Thompson for her incredible work. And thank you to our team. Just as next steps, we're delighted that you've given us a little bit of time to share this presentation with you this evening. Following this meeting, we will post the presentation to our website along with a video of our presentation. So that concludes our presentation, and we're open to any questions or feedback that the committee may have. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Lisa Wright. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I do have two questions. The first one is about the buses that are getting the air conditioning system. Is there any new technology that'll be put in the buses that'll help, when we're dealing with things like the COVID-19 and other viruses spreading? Is there any kind of new technology that will be added to the current buses and the new buses?
That is one thing that we're looking at. We've actually received some information on a system that can be added to the buses, whether they are air conditioned or not. It wouldn't have to be connected to a air conditioning system, but that's something that we are reviewing.
And then the second thing is the numbers that you have for SPLOST 6, have they been adjusted for the cost increases in construction, or is that something you're just going to strictly cover in the contingency and reserve?
No, they'll, as the projects are planned out, when they occur over the next 5 years through SPLOST 6, and I just want to, I didn't state, but just want to state too that the plan that the team is working on right now is actually considered to be a 10-year plan. But as those projects are planned out, we will look at inflation and escalation rates. And typically what we do is we plan for a certain percentage to the midpoint of construction of the project. So if a project is scheduled to be constructed, say in 2026, then you would, well, in the past, you would use 3% or 3.5% as kind of the standard. But what we've seen over the last year or so, we would definitely want to increase that. But you plan for a certain percentage each year up to the midpoint of that construction, and that kind of gives you a good estimate as to what the future costs might be.
So am I understanding that you will be adjusting them since you in the planning phase? Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No.
All right.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Will our November meeting be at 6 o'clock also, or 7?
No, it will return back to the normal time. So it should be at 6.
Yeah, this meeting was set at 7, so it wouldn't conflict with the 6 o'clock public meeting. We wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to go to both.
Any other questions? All right, so our next meeting is November 17th, 2021. Probably will be virtual due to the pandemic. So please look out for the meeting invite and the links. And it is now 8:27. And if there's nothing else, we are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Please stay safe. And thank you to our visitors for visiting with us. We hope you enjoyed our meeting. A lot of information provided. And we hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Everyone stay safe. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.